Happy Friday and welcome back to the Fuller Homestead. My name is Brian. It has been raining pretty much all morning here. In fact, it was really heavy earlier. You wouldn't have been able to hear me over the noise if that was the case now. Currently, it's just lightly sprinkling. We're happy with that. We're going to be in the shop today continuing a project that we started on our last video. If you missed that one, we are going to be building a chicken tractor using the designs found in this book, Polyface Designs. We did have a question on our Instagram in regards to this build. The question was, since we are using this design that was intended for meat chickens, is that really going to be conducive for laying hens? The short answer is no over the long term. We're just using this as an in-between to get them from the brooder to the coop. We're not planning on them living in this their entire life. They are going to be in the coop and in a fenced-in run. As a bonus, we are planning on doing meat chickens next spring, so this build will actually kill two projects with one build. I was very careful not to use two birds with one stone because of the topic. Since we last talked, we have completed almost our entire cut list and we've got our supplies ready, so we're going to start this build right now. Having to run into town to grab a few things before we can finish this chicken tractor build. So as we do when we live in the country, we try to double up on our trips, at least, if not triple up. So Brendan has to go into town for what?
Football practice.
That's right. Proud Wildcat here. We're gonna drop him off at practice and then I'll come back to pick him up here in a couple of hours. He will smell a lot better now than he will then.
True statement.
True statement. But the good news is, dude, it's only 86 degrees outside. No, 84. 84 degrees.
Sun's still.
Yeah, the sun's out, but 84 degrees? It's like a cold wave.
Nah.
Oh, who's that kid? What's up, Ethan? Good, you ready for some practice? So these boys are gonna go out in this 86 degree weather and kill it. All right, y'all have fun. It's like 71% humidity though, so it feels like 91. We'll let them still believe that it is between 84 and 86. Maybe the psychological will overpower. First stop is going to be Harbor Freight. I've got to grab some staples and also some oil for my staple gun. So let's get it. Harbor Freight wasn't busy when I went in, but by golly, they sure got busy when I was leaving. And I think everybody and their brother was returning something. We had a guy that was returning a winch. And let me just tell you, the one he was returning was jacked up. It was bad. It was real bad. That staff at Harbor Freight, top notch. They're good people there. They really are. All right, we're headed to Tractor Supply right now to get some chicken wire. This is not going to be the cheapest stop today. I didn't realize how much a roll of 72-inch chicken wire is. And I'm still waiting on my roll of hardware cloth. Not a cheap day for the chickens. See what I did there? All right. Tractor Supply, stop number 2. I had passed it. Okay, so we need 24-inch. And we need 72. It would be right down there. Okay, Let's go ask. All right, since it is such a small section that we're covering, there's a lot of places to staple. We're gonna try 236ers, see if we can't make it work. Actually, it turns out to be cheaper that way. Next stop is Lowe's. We're gonna get one more 1x6 12 footer and then some more decking screws, totally out of 3 inches. Okay, going a little off script here as far as the plans go. The book even mentions that the aluminum roofing is gonna be really tough to find, so we're gonna go with this PVC stuff for right now, and we may upgrade later. Loaded up and ready to head back to pick up my son from practice. Funny story though, at our first stop at Harbor Freight, I got a call from my brother-in-law, and he said, hey, apparently your kid and my kid are the only two that didn't read the message that said practice was canceled. So they didn't have practice, so they went over to a football field. My brother-in-law was gracious enough to take them over there and let them play around. So it is an hour since a little less than an hour since I dropped them off, so that'll be good. And I'll go pick them up and we'll head back home. Well, we're back from running all the errands and picking up the boy at football practice. Right now, it is time to start working again on the chicken tractor. The first thing we're gonna do is take some of our 24-inch chicken wire and wrap the front half of it. So we'll do that and get a little more time lapse going because we know that's what the people want. Got all of the chicken wire around the areas that I'm supposed to put chicken wire on now. If I had this to do over again, number one, I would have a helper to pull that fence tight. That wasn't the smartest move. On this side, I'm not as happy with it as I am that one. And I'll tell you what I started doing. I started going along the bottom and lifting it up that ½ inch they're asking for and popping taps there all the way across. Then I would go back and I would pull up taut with one hand, staple it, staple it, staple it, staple it, staple it. And then I went back and hit these cross pieces. You can see, made it around this first part here and then 7 feet on that back section. Now what we're gonna do is do some of the roofing on the back side. So there's a section of roofing that goes here, section of roofing that goes there. And as we talked about before, they asked for aluminum in there, knowing that steel would be too heavy and it absorbed heat and stuff. Lowe's didn't have it, Tractor Supply didn't have what I needed. But what I did get at Lowe's is this corrugated roofing that is a PVC and it's also white. My thought process is that the PVC will not deteriorate as much as, let's say, fiberglass or whatever else there might be out there. And then the white will actually reflect the light instead of absorb it. So I'm hoping that's what will happen. Also, another problem is that this calls for 4-foot sections to go across here this way. All that Lowe's had was 2-foot sections. So we're going to be doubling up. Thankfully, there are braces there and hopefully we can overlap them and make it work. Before I get to the roofing, I wanted to show you this real quick. On each side is going to be this handle. It's just simply wrapped around the base 30 inches from the center. And then over top of it, I got this PVC lined hose that was to the old sink that used to be in the house. It's one of the water lines. Put that over the wire, and basically the way that I set it up is just above there. But when I stand up, just standing up lifts it to where I can move it. It's not light, but it's doable. So I'm gonna do another one on this side. I did want to show you that on this wire, the only wire that I had is in a spool that looks like this. It's some old baling wire. And I don't know for sure what gauge this is because it's kind of rubbed off. It looks like 12. The instructions called for 12.5 gauge. So what I did is I took 2 longer strands of this and I basically twisted it over to double up. So let me show you how I did. The first thing I did was just to unwind about 24 feet of this baling wire. And then once I had the center, I go over to my vise here and I take the loop and I put it around the handle to my vise. Make one twist. Oh, and you're gonna have to follow me back here. And then I walk back, taking these 2 ends. I separate them except for that one loop. So now that I've got them separated, I take my stick and then just keep twisting. It actually takes a long time. Let's time lapse this. This should really be plenty. I don't have to have all of this at the end, and I'll show you in a second. So we're gonna go ahead and unwrap this. Pretty good little section now. We'll feed it a little piece of water line, And wouldn't you know it, I left all of the bad hose, like the older garden hose at our old place. Brought all the good stuff with. Needed a bad section of hose, I didn't have one. Anyway, slide it through, cool. So we're all the way through. Now we're gonna go over to the other side and we'll tie it over there. I'm gonna try and tie it from this side so you can see it better. Trying to keep them about 30 inches on each side, just so they're even. Get to the stronger part here. I'm simply gonna wrap this. Not worried about it being too tight yet. I'll go back here in a little bit, cut off the excess, and go to the other side. Now before I wrap this, I'm gonna make sure that my height is right. Now I just take my lines and pliers, grab a hold, keep twisting. All right, I feel really good about that side. So now we've just got to go back over there and do the same thing, cinch it up, and we're good for this one. Let's look at the progress we've made thus far. This whole back side, the roof is now covered. We've got most of it being this PVC. The middle section is steel, just from my scrap pile. I'm not really happy with the fit of that. I think I could have gone for a bigger piece, so that could still be done. On the back, this section is open, and it's open on purpose just to get some good circulation flowing through there and out through the other side of the tractor. This side as well, not really ecstatic about, but we've got drips, not a big deal. These are chickens, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The only reason that this bothers me is because of the water that's going to get on the wood. Now we move on to what they call the metal lid. Basically, there's two lids on this side. There's a screen lid, and then there's a metal lid. All right, gang, we're gonna go ahead and call this done. Let me show you where we're at and show you mistakes and things that we're gonna fix later. But for all practical purposes, everything is functional except this one right here, and it is needing a screen. Now, I bought 2 rolls of 36 inches thinking that I could just make up the 72, and I might still could by really stapling it tight there, pulling it really tight down here, you know, with some help, and I might could still make those 236 work, especially if I popped it on this brace. After I looked at a picture, I noticed that they actually had it flipped where the gap that was showing was down the long side instead of this side. I have a support here and I have a support there, and it's not touching. My points of contact are not the best. So that may all come up, flip it so that I've got more points of contact. But you can see this thing, I mean, it goes way back there. It's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. When it was just a frame, I thought, oh, no problem. We'll pick that mug up and we'll flip it and head out. But that's gonna be heavy. Obviously not something I'm worrying about tonight. We're gonna wrap it up. Let me go ahead and clean a few things up, and I'll give you a few parting thoughts. It's pretty cool to know that you can actually complete one of these in just the time it took you to watch this YouTube video. I wish. Some of you may be interested in knowing how much time it took to put this together and how much money I have invested. So let's go over that. If you count the time it took to do all of the cut list and the assembly, I would guesstimate between 3 to 4 hours. Some of you might think, man, that's crazy amount of time. Or some of you are thinking, that's nothing. This is the first time I've ever tried to put one of these together using someone else's plans. I've never seen one of these in person. I've only seen them in pictures. So there was probably a learning curve there as well. As far as money goes, I had some of the wood here, but I did have to go buy some, and I did have to buy this PVC corrugated roofing. I probably have less than $200. I would say closer to about $170, $180. But overall, let's call it $200, 3.5 to 4 hours, and you too can put one of these together. But at the end of the day, for us, this is about function and not fashion. And so I'm happy to have this as part of our arsenal here on the homestead. I'm looking forward to not only giving our laying hens a temporary place before they hit the coop that I still have to finish, but also for our meat chickens that will be coming next spring. We hope to do a couple of batches of those. That's going to do it for today's video. Thanks so much for stopping in. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. Give it a thumbs up if you think it's warranted, and hit that notification bell so you can know when our next video is. As it is right now, our schedule is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which means we hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.